When you lock in from that place of groundedness, softness, ease, and pure devotion, know that you are going to finish this year with power. Welcome to the Spiritually Fly podcast, where we explore soft, sacred, and sometimes messy layers of becoming. I'm Faith Hunter, author, global wellness expert, and your guide on this journey to living with ease, authenticity, and alignment. Each week, we'll drop into stories, practices, and soulful conversations to help you heal, rise, and manifest the life you were born to live. Hey there, darlings. We're back. This is Faith Hunter, and this is episode number 22. Every single place on social media, people are talking about the great lock in. We're sitting here right now. It's probably a couple of days into the solar eclipse and the begin of the great lock in. But basically, we have 4 months left in this year. And the message that is pulsating throughout social media around this great lock in is we are going to lock in deep with no distractions, no breaks, and no excuses. Basically, are you going to lock in? That is what people are asking. Or either they're sharing their lock in commitments. But here's the truth: discipline without devotion does not last. Discipline without pure devotion does not last. And what happens is people drop into that hustle mode. But we all know when you're hustling and you're hustling and you're hustling, it is ultimately going to burn you out. And babes, I am here for you and for me. I want all of us to manifest our dreams with devotion. I want us to do it with identity. And I also want us to do it with softness. On Wednesday, just a few days ago, I dropped a really brand new midweek series called The Shift. Now, The Shift is a collection of short videos that I will drop every single week on YouTube. And the first one that I dropped was about the topic for today, the great lock in. In that video, that short one, I introduced what I considered 3 layers that can make the lock-in over the next 4 months, or anytime actually you decide to do some serious locking in on your personal growth. I've provided 3 layers of how you can make that sustainable. Now, those 3 layers include devotion, identity, and softness, which I said earlier, right? Because that's what we want. We want to be in devotion of who we are. We want to know who we are. We don't really understand our own personal identity, but we also want to do it with softness. But here today on the Spiritually Fly podcast, I am going to take you a whole lot deeper. We're going to go super, super deep. So, inside this particular episode, I am going to unpack all 3 of those layers. I'm going to provide you with some real life examples, and I'll also share the science behind why it matters. And you're probably like, Faith, you always do the spiritual stuff. Why are you doing the science? I'm a nerd. I am a wellness spiritual nerd. I'm a techie. Okay, I'm going off topic, but just so you guys understand, I love the science of how things work and merging that with the spiritual aspect. And yeah, so I'm going to share the science behind it as well. And then I'm also going to offer some practices to really help you embody this great lock in energy. So I want to begin with a little story. I remember back in my early 30s, I had just divorce. So I had just gotten over a divorce where actually my divorce papers were stamped and I already had my train ticket to New York. So basically, divorce happened. My attorney called me and he says, Faith, I have a surprise for you. And this is, and I just realized something. As I'm recording this, literally, I received my divorce papers in September of 2001. 2001. And I received them 2 days before my birthday. I'm recording this only a few days from that. So, yeah, this is like the story that I needed to tell without a doubt. So, let's go back to the story. I basically was going through a divorce. I moved to New York during that time. And when I moved to New York, it was for me to completely rebuild my life. I wanted something different and I didn't want what I was experiencing in DC. I wanted a fresh start of sorts. And you can only imagine every single thing in New York amplifies, preaches, speaks loudly upon the grind culture. And it's all about locking in every day, 7 days a week, all day. Take out some time for play, but even sometimes the play becomes lock in. And it's all about staying disciplined with no excuses. So during that time, I was all about it. I would wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I would head over to a Lower East Side studio, unroll my yoga mat, leave there, and completely fill my schedule with work, with all the activities and all the things that you can engage in, all the people you can engage in. I mean, definitely, it was a Sex and the City kind of life. I was living it. I was literally living that vibe from the high heels to the big curly hair during I mean, you guys know during Sex in the City when Sarah Jessica Parker cut her hair. I had my hair trimmed that way so that it could kind of like hang like that. But anyway, I was living that life. I mean, I was having a good time, dancing on tables, going to industry parties because I was in the music industry for a while in New York before I became a wellness expert, actually, before I decided to enroll in yoga teacher training. So I was having a good time. I literally pushed myself during that time to the edge. And as I described, I was doing all the things. But underneath all of that productivity, I was completely exhausted. I was disconnected. Even though I was moving through my yoga practice, I was disconnected really from my soul. And I was empty. Yeah, I was really empty. The shift, though, happened when I stopped forcing and I started to engage in personal acts of devotion. I wasn't in that moment when I had that mental mind shift. I wasn't dragging myself to the yoga mat at 5 a.m. I allowed myself to flow a little bit differently. So if I didn't feel like waking up and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to still get in that beautiful practice for myself. I'm still going to show up for myself on the yoga mat, but maybe I'll take an afternoon class or maybe I'll leave for lunch and go take a quick class, right? I kind of adjusted in a way that was going to fit and sit right with my soul. I also did a lot of journaling, which I talk about a lot on this podcast, because when I was in that grind culture, I had tons and tons of checklists. So instead of writing the things down in the checklist in my journal, I allowed my journal to serve as a tool to ground me. So basically, from those early years in New York, finally coming back to DC, working in DC a second time around, and trying to get my yoga studios going and like all of that. And then all of a sudden 2011 hit when I had another like life crisis, which I talk about a lot on my podcast, I danced in and out of that grind, hustle, lock in mind state. And so basically, around 2011, the seeds of Spiritually Fly started to evolve. And that's the moment I began to embrace this soft, much softer, not as soft as I am now, but a little softer version of devotion and patience and care and grace and kindness for myself. And realizing that I can lock in, but my lock in may look different than everyone else's. And ultimately, with that experience and knowledge, that's kind of what I want to share with you guys. A different kind of lock-in, a lock-in that is rooted in radical self-love, and it is not at all connected to pressure. So here we go. Layer number 1, devotion. Devotion is about shifting your energy from pressure into a place of love. It's not this particular phrase, I have to meditate, or I need to work out. It actually is telling yourself, right? Speaking mindful words to yourself and saying, I choose to act out of devotion for my overall health and well being. Or in that moment, I remember lighting candles and using that as a gesture to slow down as I decided to journal or give myself the spaciousness to enjoy my tea before diving completely into work. And one of the things that I think has carried me really, really far and has really supported me is pausing in those moments just to take a deep breath and slow down and then jump into all of the things that are on my calendar. So here, let's dive into some of that science, that nerd. I should get my glasses to put those on in. Yeah. Anyway, let's dive into the science of it. When your actions connect to what you truly value, your brain actually releases dopamine. That is why devotion to something or an action or step can be sustained. Whereas if you're pushing and tugging in that place of discipline, in that hustle of the discipline, it can often and almost all the time burn you out. Devotion feels more like alignment instead of a strain. Okay, let's talk about number 2. The second layer is identity. Identity is the lock in that actually lasts. That's that aspect that makes it last. When you embody who you are becoming, the actions flow naturally. So instead of saying, I'm trying to get healthy, right? You declare to yourself, I am a woman who honors her body because that's your identity. You are that woman who's honoring her body, who cares and loves herself. Instead of saying, I'm working on being super consistent, you claim, I am someone who shows up for herself. So, neuroscience actually calls this the identity based habit formation. Basically, the brain rewires when your actions flow from what you believe and also what you feel. So, ask yourself this: who is the version of me who already has what I desire? What does she believe? And here's another one that I ask myself on a regular: how does she move? So I'm constantly thinking to myself, who is that person? How does she move? What does she feel like? What does she believe? What would she do? Right? It's like you think about, and this is how you switch the neuroplasticity. You think about who that highest version of yourself is, and then you embody that highest version. So here's the deal, when you live with that higher identity, you stop forcing and you actually start fully and completely embodying your future self. All right, let's go on and move into layer three. Layer three is softness. Softness is what makes your lock in super sustainable. And ultimately, without softness, you're just grinding every day, right? You're just moving through the grind. When you are in that state of softness, you are actually grounded. Softness means weaving in nervous system safety, like breath, like rest, and even engaging in rituals that are going to support your overall health and well being. In doing all of those things, right? Ultimately, you want to engage a little softness, even in those moments where there may be a little pressure or you do have a deadline. But let's go back to the science. Science shows us that when you are locked in to a fight or flight mode, you don't have the capacity to transform. Your softness shrinks. But when we engage our parasympathetic nervous system, utilizing practices like breath or simple grounding practices, the mind as well as the body starts to open. So for me, softness looks like a midday dance party or, again, taking a few breaths to help me reset. Another soft practice that I love using is taking a walk outside, even if it's only 5 minutes, just to get a change of scenery and to get my body moving. It can also look like resting, taking a moment to just lie on your back, curl up on the sofa, and that act of resting also becomes an act of devotion, act of softness and devotion to your highest self, to your future self. Softness isn't weakness, it's sacred strength. It's what allows our lock in, when we engage in one, to be tender, to be powerful, and to be lasting. Before we keep going, I want to thank our podcast sponsor, MTE. MTE is a new kind of energy designed to fuel your mind, mood, and body without caffeine, sugar, jitters, or even crashes. It's a 10-in-1 wellness blend combining ancient adaptogens like ashwagandha and maca root with modern nootropics for focus and recovery. For me, it's become a gentle daily ritual, a way to support my nervous system, my focus, and my mind, all without compromise. So if you're ready for energy that actually supports your body long term, check out MTE. I'll link this above, below, and definitely in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to things. I want to share another story. And actually, this story is about one of my clients who came to me and she was extremely, extremely overwhelmed. And she was stressed out because she had to be honest, when she showed me her calendar, she had some crazy strict routines and she was on a strict diet. Like she was doing the intense workouts and, not that intense workouts are bad, but she was doing them every day. So there wasn't even space and time to have a rest day. And ultimately, her life was overwhelmed and filled with all the things from work to also family. She was extremely disciplined, but here's the key. She wasn't devoted. She wasn't devoted to who she is or who she desired to be, or even devoted to her future self, her future dreams. So I stepped in. She came to me and I stepped in. I was like, okay, let's review this. Let's review your life, right? What feels like pressure and what feels like ease. And then let's find a balance between all of that. So I really realized in connecting with her and supporting her that she actually needed to shift her perspective. So it was a mind and body balance and a mind body connection that needed to happen. Instead of her thinking that she needed to go to her workout, I helped her see it as, yes, you're still going to have it on your calendar. It's still going to be there, but you're still going to give yourself grace. And you're going to say to yourself, I move my body because I love myself. Now, when it came to her meal plans, I said, you know what? It's great to have meal plans. I love a good meal prep. However, right before you eat, pause and just give gratitude. Like whatever your gratitude ritual looks like, giving honor to the people that prepared your food if you're eating out, right? Giving honor to yourself, making time to prep your meal before you came to work, right? Just pause before you actually consume the food. And then the other thing is I reminded her the importance of resting. So if it was giving herself a full on 24-hour rest day, do that if that was important. If it was just stopping in the middle of some intense work and lying on the floor and breathing, or taking that extra walk, but making that walk slow and easy, do it. Because what she would do is like, oh my God, Faith, I need to rest. Like she was like, I need to rest. I know this, but I always feel guilty. So I had to like aid her in kind of wiping away that mindset that rest would make her weak. Actually, rest is going to support and aid her in having the clarity and also the stamina to stay in action in those heavy moments. And here's the magic. After about 6 months of working with me, I, and even over the course of time, I could see things started to change. She was healthier. She was much more vibrant, radiant, and I remember our one of our last calls, she was so grounded, and it was beautiful to, like, see that transformation in her. So, ultimately, she wasn't fighting herself anymore. Instead, she was honoring herself, and that's what we all have to do, honor ourselves. Alright, let's actually take a little moment, and let's do a moment of honoring ourselves. I want you to first take a deep breath in. Exhale, empty out. And you can keep your eyes opened or closed, whatever feels right for this. And I want you to repeat to yourself, I am safe to grow. One more time. I am safe to grow. I am devoted to my becoming. I am devoted to my becoming. Now take another deep breath in. Exhale, empty out. I'm so glad you took that time for yourself. Go on and open those eyes. And know that if you have been listening or you've been watching this and you're thinking to yourself, yes, yes, I need some support and staying in my own soft lock in, or I need to stay committed to my goals, but I want to do all of that in a very nurturing way. Don't worry, babes. I've got you. Inside of the Spiritually Fly app, you will find an assortment of daily practices, everything from meditation to breath work to journaling rituals, and all of those spiritual as well as neuroscience based practices that are going to help you stay steady. And what I'm really excited about is right now we have a brand new workshop inside of the Spiritually Fly membership. It is called Be Divine Without Apologizing. It actually is the perfect workshop to do during this lock in to just like kickstart it because it's only 7 days, 7 day workshop to help get you on that track to being in your own soft lock in. Now, that particular workshop is all about standing boldly in your personal essence and being fully and 100 completely embodied in that as well. Now, if you are craving a little bit more accountability, like my client, or you're someone that needs a little more hand holding or someone to just walk with you along this journey, I can also assist you with that and help you map out some strategies that can actually move the needle and move you towards your desires. That is where my one-on-one coaching comes in. And during those private sessions, we will dive deep. But not only will you get those private sessions with me, you will also have Monday through Friday WhatsApp access to me throughout our time together. So, for example, if you're going to do, say, 3 to 6 sessions, that means you will have WhatsApp access to me anywhere from 2 to 3 months, which is pretty cool. And ultimately, my goal is to support you in creating personalized plans, strategies, spiritual as well as practical strategies, and nervous system practices to help you stay what? Locked in, aligned, and aid you in manifesting what you desire. So, whether it's the Spiritually Fly membership as your daily sanctuary and tool for grounding, or my private coaching as an intimate reset, know that I have something to support you in your great lock in. So, darling, as you step into the final few months of the year, I encourage you not to put pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you have to do this great lock in a way that is going to feel like you're grinding. I want it to feel like you're massively in love with yourself and you're doing it to elevate yourself in a powerful way. So I encourage you to ask yourself, what am I devoted to? Who am I becoming? How can I soften into rituals that are going to sustain me in the long term? And when you lock in from that place of groundedness, softness, ease, and pure devotion, know that you are going to finish this year with power. And when you finish, you're going to be aligned and ready to step into a radiant 2026. Stay soft, stay grounded, and always stay spiritually fly. See you guys. Ciao.